What just happened to Glen Powell's career? Hollywood's new golden boy, fresh off massive hits like Top Gun, Maverick, and Twisters, just starred in a $110 million blockbuster that completely crashed and burned. We're talking about The Running Man, the sci-fi reboot directed by the brilliant Edgar Wright. It was supposed to be a sure thing, right? Well, it opened to a dismal $17 million in the US and was completely overshadowed by the surprise #1 movie, Now You See Me 3. So, what went wrong? How did a movie with this much star power, a fan-favorite director, and a massive budget completely trip at the starting line? The story behind this box office disaster is a classic Hollywood tale of chaos, bad timing, and studio politics. Let's dive into the mess. From the outside, The Running Man looked like a guaranteed hit. It was the third big bet on Glen Powell, an adaptation of a Stephen King classic, and had Edgar Wright, the genius behind Baby Driver, in the director's chair. But behind the scenes, things were falling apart. The biggest problem, a massive shakeup at Paramount, the studio behind the film. A new leadership team came in, and they inherited a slate of movies from the previous management. Word on the street is, they just weren't that into The Running Man. This happens all the time in Hollywood. New bosses come in, and projects they didn't greenlight suddenly become the unloved stepchildren of the studio. But the chaos didn't stop there. Right as the marketing campaign should have been kicking into high gear, Paramount's global marketing boss left the company. This created a huge power vacuum. For a critical period, the marketing team was basically in limbo, unsure who to take direction from, all while job cuts were looming. The new marketing head, a guy known for pulling off miracles, didn't even start until mid-October, just 1 month before the movie's release. He tried his best, pushing out new trailers to target different audiences, but it was too little, too late. The initial marketing message just wasn't landing with people. To make matters worse, the studio kept shuffling the release date. First, it was set to go up against the musical behemoth Wicked. Then it moved to face off against the new Predator movie. It finally landed on a mid-November date, which is usually a great spot. But tracking numbers were already showing a weak opening, projecting around $20 million, nowhere near enough for a film of this size that was meant to launch a new franchise. This is where it gets really painful. When a studio sees that the audience isn't responding, they often cut the marketing budget to minimize their losses. And that's exactly what happened here. The final nail in the coffin came when the reviews dropped, critics weren't kind, and advance ticket sales took a nosedive. Interestingly, The Running Man actually had slightly better reviews than Now You See Me 3, and audiences gave both movies the same B+ cinema score. So why did one soar while the other sank? It came down to audience appeal. Now You See Me 3 drew in a much broader, more female-skewing crowd. The Running Man, with its R rating and dark sci-fi themes, really only appealed to older guys. In exit polls, Glen Powell himself was only the third reason people went to see it. After the genre and the promise of an exciting movie, the PG-13 rating of Now You See Me, along with Powell's previous hits, proved that a wider audience rating is often key to blockbuster success. So, is this the end of Glen Powell's hot streak? Not so fast. People close to the film are adamant that this failure isn't on him. Powell is known for being incredibly involved in promoting his movies, much like Tom Cruise or Ryan Reynolds. He truly cares, and his appeal to audiences in the middle of the country was actually a bright spot for the film's performance. This isn't a Glen Powell problem. It's a Hollywood problem. This flop is another example of a bigger, more worrying trend. Audiences just don't seem to care about reboots of 80s sci-fi cult classics. We saw it with Tron, Ares, and Blade Runner 2049. Both were expensive, ambitious films that failed to connect with the mainstream audience. It raises the question, why even remake a movie like The Running Man, which wasn't even a massive hit back in 1987? It seems Hollywood's obsession with nostalgia is hitting a wall. Unless it's a massive, universally beloved property like Dune, trying to revive these niche, cult films seems to be a recipe for disaster. It looks like we won't be seeing that Buckaroo Banzai reboot anytime soon. What do you think? Were you excited for The Running Man? Or are you tired of all the 80s reboots? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed deep dives into the wild world of Hollywood, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.